This DVD is for teachers who don't have any basic training in teaching. Teaching and learning. These are two terms we hear used in education. Many people look for the best method of teaching. There is no one best method of teaching. Teaching depends on the teacher's personality and the students he or she is teaching. What is the meaning of teaching? Teaching means making the conditions right for learners to learn. It doesn't mean that the teacher knows everything and passes the knowledge over to the students. If you are giving information in a one-way communication, that is a lecture. Our students are not university students. We are not lecturers. We are teachers. So we do whatever is necessary for learning to take place.
The other thing to bear in mind is that each learner is different. Each learner has different kinds of experiences. Each learner learns in different ways. And, some people, you would have noticed it with your friends, with people you meet, even not just your students. Some people learn best from books. Some people learn best from doing things, manipulating things. Some people learn best listening to things. Some people learn best with a visual. And so what we need to do is to understand that because we've got many students in class, each student with a different way of learning, we've got to try to cater for as many different styles of learning as possible.
Today, we recognize that there are many types of intelligences, multiple intelligences. People learn according to their dominant intelligence, so we do whatever is necessary for learning to take place.
In the life cycle of a butterfly: the egg, the caterpillar, the pupa, and the butterfly. The butterfly lays the egg under the leaf, and the egg then hatches and becomes a caterpillar. The caterpillar then becomes a pupa, and finally it becomes a butterfly. A visual spatial learner learns well when pictures are involved. Telling them about things are not as good as showing them a diagram. This is because most of us respond well to pictures or visuals when learning.
This intelligence involves numbers and logical reasoning. These people may not be interested in music or art, but when it comes to calculations, they learn well. They like proof of things and reasoning.
Some people respond well to language. They like to read, they like to hear stories, and they respond well to explanations.
Some people remember better when there's music or rhythm involved. For example, if they are learning the numbers, they can remember 1, 2, buckle my shoes, 3, 4, shut the door, better than 1, 2, 3.
Banana, eat banana, eat banana, throw banana, throw banana, throw banana, throw banana.
The interpersonal person likes to socialize. They like to work with other people. They like discussions and working in teams. On the other hand, those who favor intrapersonal intelligence like to do things alone. They philosophize and talk to themselves, either out loud or in their mind.
The naturalistic people like anything connected to nature. So when you give explanations using examples from nature, they learn well.
So that, in a nutshell, is what multiple intelligences involve. The main point is, different people learn well differently. So, as teachers, we must use all kinds of ways to teach our different students. Let us summarize. People learn in different ways. 8 ways are kinesthetic or physical action, verbal linguistic or language, logical mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, visual spatial using pictures and objects, musical rhythmic, and naturalistic. The whole idea is to teach using different strategies to cater for the different ways students learn. One way is not likely to suit everyone. The lesson plan. Even if you are an experienced teacher, you need to plan your lesson. Every lesson must have an objective. In Stephen Covey's book, he says the second habit is begin with the end in mind. That means, what is it that you want your students to learn at the end of the lesson? What is it that they are able to do? Can they tell you the life cycle of the butterfly? Or perhaps describe how rain is formed? Or perhaps add a few numbers? Lesson plans. There are many ways to plan a lesson. In this section, we are going to look at one way. We call it the 3 P's approach. P for presentation, P for practice, and P for production. We will explain more of this later on. But first, before your lesson starts, there must be an introduction. In the introduction, you get the attention of the students and turn their mind to the lesson that you're teaching for them.
So which flower do you like? We have several here. Yes, which do you like? What about you? And you? And which flower do you like best? All right, would you like to see more of your favourite flowers? Well, to ensure that they all don't die out, they multiply in various ways. And today we will learn of the different ways that plants multiply, and we call this survival of the species.
As you can see from that segment, the teacher attracted their attention and he asked them questions so that the students were active. They gave the teacher answers. And then the teacher introduced the subject for the day. The teacher will then go into the presentation stage where he gives them the input, where he gives them the information, where he gives them the teaching part of the lesson. The presentation part is where you teach the students. Then you let them practice what you have taught them. The last part is to let them use what they have learned in new situations. When you think about the stages in a lesson, think about teaching children a little trick with rubber bands. We start off by getting their attention. You see this rubber band here? We'll do a trick with this little rubber band. We're going to learn how to make the rubber band jump from these two fingers to the next two fingers. First, you take a rubber band and then you make it smaller and then put it over the first two fingers. Then you pull the rubber band and put all four fingers into the loop. When you open your fingers, the rubber band will jump from the first two fingers to the last two fingers.
I'm going to show you a picture of an animal. I want to see who can tell me the name of the animal first. 1, 2, 3.
That is the presentation stage or the input stage, the teaching part. Then you give them exercises, asking them questions about what you have just taught them. You could ask questions like, do frogs give birth to little frogs, or do they lay eggs? Do they lay a few eggs or a lot of eggs?
Your friend says, big frogs give birth to little frogs. I want you to write an essay on how frogs reproduce.
Different people will have different techniques, but to me, as long as you are not boring your students and they are with you, and to me the technique should be able to get them to bite every time you throw something and they bite, and they're happy to be biting and they're happy to be traveling with you or learning with you.
This section deals with interesting lessons. To make lessons interesting, you need to learn two terms. One is A, V, A. The other one is V, A, K. Some teachers ask us, how do we control the students? How do we discipline them? And they also ask us, how do we make lessons more interesting? Well, the two are linked. When lessons are interesting, there are less discipline problems. Try to have as many student-centered activities as possible in every lesson. Teach a bit, have the students do some activities, teach a bit more, then let them do something, as long as the students are doing something. It's not the teacher talking all the time. One important thing to remember in teaching is that students learn well through 3 channels. We call those channels VAK. VAK. VAK stands for visual, audio, and kinesthetic. V means visuals. Visuals means things like pictures and real things like leaves and flowers. If you bring this into class, then the students can see something different, not just a book, not just a blackboard, not just the teacher, but there's color. There are things that they can touch, things they can see. Audio means listening. You let them listen to you, you let them listen to a tape recorder, you let them listen to a CD player, you let them listen to a television, perhaps anything, as long as they listen. So they are using their ears, they are learning through listening, they are learning through hearing. And kinesthetic means action, motion, physical movements. For example, when I talked about VAK, I said VAK. And if I made you do this, then you will remember VAK for a longer time and also more easily, because you can tie in the idea or the concept with the physical movements. So that's called kinesthetics. For example, if you're teaching a foreign language, let's say Malay, walk is jalan. Now they may not be able to remember jalan, but if you make them walk while they say jalan, so as they're walking, they will say jalan, then that will imprint more permanently in their minds. Let's take another example. If you're teaching them how to converse with a salesperson in a shop in a foreign country and they're speaking in English, what you do is, instead of making them just repeat the sentences, you might want to set up shop in class. So they go around, one student is the customer, one student is the salesperson. So they go around and they pretend to buy things. They're using their bodies. They're listening, of course, and of course they're seeing things as well. So VAK is a term that is worth remembering. Try to put in as many VAK activities as possible in your lessons to make them more interesting. If you're a teacher who's always thinking, how do I make my lessons more interesting for the students, then your students are very lucky. If you keep thinking about how to make your lessons more interesting, if you're sincere about it, you are an excellent teacher. Hopefully, this DVD will give you extra ideas on how to make your lessons more varied and more interesting for the sake of the students. The more they learn, the better they will be, and they will be better people. All the suggestions we give here can be used for any subject. All you've got to do is to adapt them to the subject that you're teaching.
Set induction is getting the minds of the student ready for the lesson. It should take about 1 to 5 minutes.
Let's say your students were learning science before your maths lesson. So their minds were on science before you step in.
So now you want them to be ready for your maths lesson. You could say, put away your science books and take out your maths books. That will put their mind on your subject, but it is not interesting.
How do we make the beginning of our lessons interesting? There are effective and ineffective ways. If you came into the classroom and banged the board and said, "Get ready for your maths," that will get their attention, but not in a positive way.
You could say, watch this movie before your maths lesson. It would be interesting, but not related.
So the idea of set induction is to get their minds ready for the lesson. And to do that, make it as interesting as you can so that the students are encouraged to pay attention.
Let's say you're teaching a maths lesson on percentages. Show them 2 pictures and ask them to count the number of dancers in each picture. Then say, this picture has 100% more dancers than the other. What do I mean by 100% more? That's what we are going to learn today. Percentages.
Set induction is getting your students ready for the lesson. The more creative you are, the more your students look forward to your lessons.
What methods can you use to start a lesson? Here are a few suggestions. Show them pictures.
Give them puzzles or riddles. For example, what has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening?
Tell them a short or personal story. For example, I've got a letter from my friend from Indonesia, and he told me the crops were destroyed by a storm. The winds blew and the coconut trees were bent. Many houses were destroyed. Do you know what the Indonesians eat every day? Yes, rice. So today, we are going to learn about rice planting in Southeast Asia.
Dramatize. Act out a conversation or mime something for them to guess. For example,
Let's revise what we've learned yesterday. The past tense. Tell me what I did yesterday.
Brush your teeth.
Not exactly.
Wash your face.
Yes, I washed my face. What about this one?
Brush your teeth.
Yes, I brushed my teeth. Play them parts of a song, not the whole song. For example, just before your lesson on the agricultural products of Indonesia, you might want to play them an excerpt of a song. Where do you think that music came from?
Show them real-life objects. For example, toys, plants, animals, etc.
Let them smell or touch something. For example, a fruit or food which has a strong smell. You could also put something in a bag, let some feel it, and guess what it is. Ask or do something provocative, but you must overact so it is unreal and over-dramatic. The students will not catch it till later. For example, you are teaching the justice system of your country. Pretend to accuse a student. You stole my pen, but make sure you overact so that the students will know that you're acting and will not be dramatized.
Why do we ask questions? We ask questions to get feedback. Find out how much they have learned in the lesson. To find out which part we need to re-explain or to reteach. To make the students think, we can ask questions like, why do we have to learn about the water cycle? Why do we have to learn about past tenses? If you were the king, what would you do in that situation?
Help students pay attention. If you see your students not paying attention to you, ask them questions.
Ask questions to guide them. For example, when someone asks you, why does it rain a lot in Taipei? Then you ask Socratic questions. For example, is Taipei lowland or hilly? Are hills cooler or warmer? When water vapor rises into the sky, does it get cooler or warmer? What happens when water vapor cools? What is 55 plus 44? You?
99,
What about you?
100,
What about you?
99.
And you?
99? Yes. Those who answered 99 are correct. Good. What is the capital of the United Kingdom?
London.
You?
London.
Yes, good. What is 33 plus 22? Put down your hands, I'll choose who to answer. You.
55.
You?
55.
You?
55.
Yes, very good. The correct answer is 55.
Reading aloud in class. This is a technique used by many teachers. They ask one student to read aloud one paragraph and then call upon another student to continue, while the rest of the class is supposedly following in their own books. Here we are talking about students reading whole paragraphs. This technique is useful if you have good reasons for doing it.
Though there are reasons for making students read aloud, it is not good if it is done because this was the traditional way of teaching. Traditional doesn't equal efficient. Some reasons for asking students to read aloud.
Some reasons for asking a student to read aloud. 1. The student is a good model. He reads with understanding and perhaps he's a native speaker in your English class. 2. You want to add variety to your lesson. Number 3. You are reading a dialogue and you need another voice for the dialogue to make it clear. Number 4. You need a loud voice and the student reading has a louder voice than yours and the rest of the class doesn't have the book. If the rest of the class have the same book, they can read it silently. There is no need to read aloud.
So you can see that there is little gain in making students read a textbook aloud. The rest of the class may not be paying attention anyway. Some teachers think that they can make students pay attention by asking another student to continue by stopping halfway through a paragraph. But what is the use of the reading aloud activity? Just to catch those not paying attention? The student reading may not have good pronunciation and reads in a monotone. It is better for the teacher to read aloud. He can then make meaning clear by pausing at the right places and stressing certain key words. Take this sentence for example. A student might read it like this. Water in the sea evaporates and forms moisture which floats up into the atmosphere to form clouds. But if the teacher were to read it, he can make the meaning clear. Water in the sea evaporates and forms moisture which floats up into the atmosphere to form clouds. If you have the equipment, then use recordings of reading in order to save your voice and to introduce variety into your lesson. You can turn up the volume if you need to make it louder. You can pause the recording while you explain or question. Conclusion: unless there is a good reason, the only reading aloud of passages should be done by the teacher.
Activities that you can put into your lesson is drama, which includes role play and simulation. First, let's define the terms. Drama is the overall term for the other two and has to do with acting, being what you're not, or take on personas, whether it is real or fictional. In class drama, you can write a script, but there is no memorization of lines. Role-playing is to act as if you're somebody else. For example, an angry manager, or a worried mother, or a brave warrior. They may not act out their script. They are just told what their character is. Simulation is where the students keep their own personality in a fictitious situation. What would he, as him or herself, do in that situation? For example, you have to decide whether to take a gun or a knife. As the ship is sinking off a deserted island, you can only take one. Compare this with role play. If you were a woman who doesn't know how to use a gun but can learn to, which would you choose? A knife or a gun? Although drama, role-play, and simulation should be used sparingly, you can turn any exercise into drama. Let's say you're teaching percentages in maths. You could have your students acting out this scene and make them do a fill-in-the-blanks exercise.
How much is this pot?
$2.
Can I get a discount?
There is a special offer today, 10% off all pots.
So I have to pay you $1.80 for one pot?
Yes, you just have to pay $1.80.
That was drama.
So drama can be used at any time as long as it is relevant. For example, instead of telling the students about Vietnam, we can give different groups different scripts to read and act out.
Hi, where are you from?
Vietnam? I know. Is that in Europe?
No, that is in Southeast Asia, south of China.
Do a lot of people stay in Vietnam?
Well, we have a population of 86 million. I know. The people of Vietnam are called Vietnamese.
Oh, do the Vietnamese speak English?
Actually, they speak more French than English, but that is changing now.
As each group presents its drama sketch, they learn about Vietnam instead of the teacher telling them. After the presentation, the teacher can summarize and fill in the map with information they've got from the acting of each group.
When you have taught them a lesson, there are two things you should do. 1. Find out how much they have learned. 2. Reinforce what you taught them. Make them remember better what they learned in the lesson.
You can make this more interesting by having a competition or game. Competitions are easy. Just divide the class into teams and then give marks for correct answers. This is like an oral test. Just by giving marks and turning the test into a competition with a small prize like a packet of peanuts to be shared by the group perhaps, it will generate more interest than a dull test or exercise.
Let's have a competition.
A and B. Okay, the first question. What is the capital of Vietnam? Group A? Hanoi, correct. So, 1 mark for Group A. The second question is, what is the capital of Malaysia? Okay, Group B?
Kuala Lumpur.
Okay, correct. 1 mark for Group B.
Turning an exercise into a game is also easy. Tossing a ball. Have groups standing in a circle. Give each group a bean bag or non-bouncing ball made of cloth. Teacher asks a question and the one holding the ball answers.
Okay, what's the capital of Thailand? Bangkok. Bangkok, correct. 50. What's the next question is, what's the capital of Malaysia? Kuala Lumpur. Correct. What's the capital of Thailand? Bangkok. Bangkok. Okay, now you can. What's the capital of Australia? Sydney. Let's check the answers. 22 minus 20
Yes.
Let's do it together.
22 minus 20 is 2.
Correct.
Let me give you an example of teaching arithmetic to young children, learning to count. Ask them to look around them. It could be in the classroom, it could be outside the classroom, and then ask them to close their eyes and ask them questions like, how many trees are there? Or if you're in the classroom, how many pictures are there? How many doors are there? And so on. Don't let them open their eyes. Ask them to put up their hands. And then let them open their eyes and check the answer. Were they right or wrong? And they find this a lot of fun because it doesn't matter, their eyes were all closed. So nobody knows who had the right answer and who had the wrong answer.
Shape. They don't change their shape. You need force in order to change the shape of a solid. Liquids are different. They are softer. Liquids change their shape according to the container. When you put it in a glass, it will take the shape of the glass.
This is a solid. What is this? You.
Solid.
Yes, it is a solid. What is this? You?
Solid.
This is a solid. Now let's change the shape of this. You try it. Look, can solids change their shape easily? No. So that's right. It does not change its shape easily. So one of the characteristics of a solid is solids do not change their shape easily. Now, look at this water. What is the shape?
Like the shape of a water bottle.
Like the shape of the bottle. Good. Let's pour this water into this glass. What's the shape of the water?
The shape of the glass.
The shape of the glass. Good. So, liquids take the shape of the container it is in, like this. So we have learned two things today. One, solids do not change their shape easily. And two, liquids take the shape of the container it is in.
Okay, now I want you to line up according to your month of birth. Okay, starting with January. Okay, start now. Okay. January. Okay. February. March. May. September. October. December. Okay.
Okay, Nazim. Okay. 3 of you will be in group 1. Okay, sit here. Go to your place. Just sit down together like this now. Okay. This group 2. We're gonna sit here. Okay.
Class, come over here and form two lines. Too slow, do it again. Okay, come over here and form two lines. Quick. Okay.
So you've seen some techniques on how to teach interestingly. One thing to remember though, no one technique works for any group of learners. You know that your personality matters and they have their own learning styles. So choose what suits you best and experiment with the different techniques. I assure you, you'll find one that works best for you and your students.